From an elusive mansion wrapped in legend to the port of missing men, the many mansions of the Rogers family have enticed the public for over a century. Hi everyone, Ken here. Today we're exploring not only one, but three incredible estates. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. Growing up in the small, seaside town of Fairhaven, Massachusetts, Henry Rogers experienced a modest upbringing. He was an average student by all accounts, but graduated from the local high school in 1856. His first job was as an expressman and brakeman with the Fairhaven Branch Railroad, where he saved his earnings diligently. At the age of 21, Rogers pooled his meager savings with a friend, Charles P. Ellis, to venture into the newly discovered oil fields of western Pennsylvania. They then borrowed additional funds to start a small refinery, which quickly became profitable, earning $30,000 in its first year, an impressive sum at the time. Rogers' fortunes took a significant turn when he partnered with Charles Pratt, a pioneer in the natural oil industry. Rogers and Ellis agreed to sell their refinery's output to Pratt's company, but a spike in crude oil prices soon left them in debt. Undeterred, Rogers took personal responsibility for the debt, impressing Pratt, who hired him and eventually made him a partner. Rogers then moved to Brooklyn, where he managed Pratt's Astral Oil refinery. By now, with over a decade in the industry, Rogers had a breakthrough idea which led him to invent an improved process for separating naphtha from crude oil, for which he was granted a patent in 1871. His business acumen and technical innovation set the stage for his rise within the industry. In the early 1870s, Rogers, along with Pratt, faced off against John D. Rockefeller and the South Improvement Company. Despite being the underdog, facing off against the largest company in the U.S., Rogers negotiated terms favorable to his business, which later became part of the Standard Oil Trust. His role within Standard Oil expanded, and by 1890, he was a key figure serving as vice president and chairman of the operating committee. But the world was changing, and Rogers' vision extended beyond oil. Earlier, he had conceived of the idea of long pipelines for transporting oil and gas, leading to the formation of the National Transit Company. His influence also spread to other industries, including copper, steel, banking, and railroads. Rogers co-founded the Amalgamated Copper Trust, which dominated the copper industry during a time when the nation needed extensive wiring for its growing electric networks. His last major enterprise was the creation of the Virginian Railway, a project that spans 600 miles from the coalfield of West Virginia to the port near Norfolk, Virginia. In 1895, he built a mansion in his hometown of Fairhaven, Massachusetts. His success enabled him to become a prominent philanthropist, generously supporting his hometown and funding the construction of schools, a library, a town hall, and other public buildings. He was also a friend and benefactor to noble figures like Mark Twain and Booker T. Washington. Henry Huttleston Rogers passed away on May 19th of 1909, just weeks before his last endeavor, the Virginian Railway, began full operations. His legacy endures through his contributions to various industries and his philanthropic efforts, making him a pivotal figure in America's industrial history. His son, however, could not have been more opposite. In that same year in 1909, Henry Huttleston Rogers Jr. inherited one of the largest fortunes in American history. His father, Henry Rogers Sr., had spent his entire adult life building an empire from the ground up and generously giving back through charitable work, enriching his community. His son Henry Jr. inherited the modern equivalent of nearly $1.4 billion, but he would have to wait to spend it. He had joined the New York National Guard previously, unaware of the full scope of his father's wealth. Just as his time serving was coming to an end, World War I broke out. Facing deployment, he realized that he might never get a chance to spend his inheritance. Nevertheless, he hoped that by successfully leading as a lieutenant colonel in the field artillery, he could enjoy a life of luxury upon his return. Anticipating a successful tour, Henry Jr. hired the esteemed architecture firm of Walker and Gillette to design a palatial mansion in Southampton. As the years passed, artists fine-tuned the mansion, and the Olmsted brothers were granted carte blanche to design the landscape. The estate, known as Black Point, won several awards for its design from both the AIA and the Architectural League. We recently did a deep dive on Black Point, so I'll have that video linked at the end of this one if you would like to explore its incredible interior. While that house was under construction, he purchased 2,000 acres on Long Island and greatly expanded an existing house which would be named the Port of Missing Men. As World War I drew to an end, Henry Jr. returned victorious from the front lines in France and saw his mansions for the first time. The Port of Missing Men was meant to be a hunting retreat where he could invite men from the upper echelons of society for leisure. At this time, it was the largest estate on Long Island and was developed with every amenity imaginable, making it a true escape. The property was said to have gotten its name from the fact that there were no telephone lines, allowing men to disappear from their jobs and families for days on end without being disturbed. However, there was one connection to the outside world, a stock ticker which allowed the men to keep an eye on their investments. The entire property was a pleasure park, from guest cottages fully equipped with their own staff, to large docks to park dozens of yachts. Whether they were relaxing on land or on the water, the estate was so massive that there was plenty of privacy either way. Even though Junior was intent on spending his entire inheritance, the interior of the main house was surprisingly rustic when compared to Black Point. The living room had exposed beams and simple but comfortable furniture. The dining room, which sat off to the side of the living room, was styled similarly, though it did embrace the trendy arts and crafts styling of the time, just very minimally. But these rooms are hardly indicative of the mansion, as we'll soon find out. Let's make our way through a maze of hallways decorated with murals. We'll pass the small court along the way, where the styling begins to change, with ornate wrought iron windows and classical finishes on the walls. As we find the end of the hall, we see massive columns silhouetted by the sunlight straight ahead. This is the pool room, meant to emulate a Roman bathhouse, from frescoes to marble-clad surfaces. We even find statues of Roman gods dimly lit from the skylight overhead. At the other end of the pool is the loggia, with a wall of French doors which would be open to the terrace. We'll see that soon enough, but in the meantime, let's head to the room next door, the library. In stark contrast to the rustic, arts and crafts inspired rooms we saw earlier, the library is clad in heavily ornamented wood paneling and set below an elaborate plaster ceiling. We can imagine Junior smoking cigars well into the evening in the dim light of jewel and crystal chandeliers. If we take the door at the end, we'll find the terrace. This opens first onto a portico with views stretching across the lawn. However, if we take a few steps forward and turn around, we'll find that we are right on the water, with views of the property wrapping around the cove. By the time Junior passed away in 1935, he had all but squandered the family fortune, leaving the modern-day equivalent of only tens of millions of dollars to his daughter Millicent, whose video I'm still gathering pictures for. His father's mansion unfortunately met the wrecking ball in 1914, only 19 years after it was completed, and Black Point was torn down just a few years after Junior's passing. The Port of Missing Men was slowly parceled off until just 600 acres of the original 2,000 acres remained. But unlike the other estates, and despite Junior's best intentions of spending all his inheritance, the house continues to not only stand, but has remained in his family. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Port of Missing Men down below in the comments section. You can also see inside Junior's Black Point in this video. Before you head out, make sure you are subscribed, and I'll see you next time on this house.